Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following all the news which have been reported by American, European, Canadian, Asian, African, and Australian channels and AFP, AP, Reuters news agencies. Now, please watch the news headlines.
Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air. An active shooter reported at Emory University just a short time ago. Multiple shots fired. And President Trump setting a date for a meeting with Vladimir Putin in the U.S. First, the images coming in. Police swarming the scene, flooding the streets near Emory University. Sources telling ABC News officers exchanged gunfire with the suspect. Authorities ordering everyone to shelter in place. Pierre Thomas with late details coming in at this hour. Also tonight, President Trump late today saying he will meet with Vladimir Putin in Alaska 1 week from today to discuss a possible ceasefire in the war in Ukraine. The president suggesting Putin wants peace. Mary Bruce at the White House. Developing tonight after a week on the run, the alleged gunman arrested, accused of killing 4 people in a small town. The canyon fire in Southern California exploding in size, burning across 5,000 acres in a matter of hours. More than 10,000 people forced from their homes. 14 large fires now burning across the state. Firefighters from California to Colorado battling flames in near record temperatures. More than 50 million Americans under dangerous heat alerts. Trevor Ault in California. Tonight, Israel's major escalation in Gaza. Israel's security cabinet approving plans to seize Gaza City. Protesters calling it a death sentence for the remaining hostages held by Hamas. It comes as the humanitarian crisis worsens by the day. A balcony collapsing as Palestinians tried to reach an aid package caught on a building. Frightening moments on board the world's largest cruise ship. A water slide breaking on Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas. A passenger injured, water pouring onto the deck below. The powerful moment in court, a remarkable act of forgiveness. The woman hugging the defendant who killed her husband in a hit and run. The wildly popular toy targeted by thieves. Surveillance video showing dozens of boxes stolen. The store saying they're worth thousands of dollars. And remembering an American hero, Apollo 13 Commander Jim Lovell, famously portrayed by Tom Hanks.
Houston, we have a problem.
The crew flying from the Earth to the Moon and back, while America and the world held its breath.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David. I brought fun by the gallon to our pal Jimmy Fallon. Our video of the day comes from The Tonight Show, where I was a guest last night. Spoiler alert, it went great. Here's a clip.
Welcome to the show.
I brought back memories.
Yeah, this is hilarious. We've met before.
Yes, you have no memory of it, which is understandable because we were wasted. So I walk into this bar, and I'm with my friend Andy, and then I see you, and you look at me, and you have your eyes just kind of explode, and you run towards me, and you tackle me like you're like a giant golden retriever.
I'm sorry I tackled you.
I know. It was great. It was all very good natured, and it was a great memory, and I'm so glad I finally got to tell you about it.
I'm so happy. Thank you. Welcome back. Welcome to the show. Thank you for telling me. I'm happy. That's a true story.
Thanks for leaving out all the jokes. But it went so well all the way home, I couldn't stop talking about it with my Uber driver. And we had just as much fun backstage, though things got tense when I accidentally walked into the Jonas Brothers dressing room 5 times. But it was nothing like the critics predicted. They expected me, Mr. Evil Fox News, to attack Jimmy Fallon, and they were mad when I didn't. But I went on the show for the same reason I started this show. Late night needs more fun. I was a gracious guest to a nice guy, and if you expected me to tear into Jimmy, then you're as clueless and boring as Stephen Colbert interviewing Kamala Harris. It took guts for Fallon to have me on the show, not only because he risked criticism from the left, but it exposed his audience to his handsome, witty, muscular competition. Talk about this coincidence. Jimmy Fallon's contract has just been renewed by NBC through 2028. You see that, Cole?
The backlash
backlash around the world this Friday night over Israel's plan to take over Gaza City.
That this is wrong. We reiterate our call for an immediate ceasefire.
What it would mean for 1 million Palestinians and the fears for the hostages. More money for Canada's military members, their pay raise, and the potential boost in benefits and bonuses. Plus, a Canadian tennis champion with nerves of steel.
She has amazing qualities, physically and also mentally.
How Victoria Mboko's rise to the top has been decades in the making.
Global National, reporting tonight, and Gaviola.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Israel is once again preparing for a major ground offensive in Gaza, this time to capture Gaza City, despite warnings from its own military and growing international condemnation. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pushed the plan through after a heated 10-hour session of Israel's security cabinet. He insists it will defeat Hamas and that Gaza will later be handed to Arab forces. The decision triggered a rare weekend meeting of the UN Security Council and fierce protests from hostage families. More on that in a moment, but we begin tonight with Redmond Shannon on a move many fear could deepen the crisis.
Israeli tanks waiting near the Gaza border, ready for a military operation that is hugely contentious within and outside the Middle East.
This escalation by the Israeli government is going in total contradiction to the will of the international community, international law, and common sense.
Following a 10-hour meeting of Israel's security cabinet, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said they had agreed to take control of Gaza City, but not the entire strip, as he had wanted. The plan involves moving around 1 million people south to the remaining areas of Gaza, not under Israeli control or evacuation orders. In the meeting, the head of Israel's defense forces, Eyal Zamir, reportedly raised concerns for the safety of the remaining hostages, Gazan civilians, and his fatigued troops. It is not known when the operation will begin. Even Israel's biggest backer, the US, has reservations.
There's a lot of common objectives here. There is some, I think, disagreement about how exactly to accomplish those common objectives.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has suspended any arms exports to Israel that could be used in Gaza, the strongest pushback of the war yet from Israel's most important European ally. In a social media post, Netanyahu's office pointedly said Germany is rewarding Hamas for the most horrific attack against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Netanyahu says he wants to establish both.
Breaking tonight, the man accused of murdering 4 people in Montana, now in custody. Michael Paul Brown captured after a week on the run. Teams searching the remote mountains for the Iraq war vet after he allegedly stepped into the Owl Bar and killed 4 people. The late-breaking details tonight. Also, the shooting of a police officer at Emory's Atlanta campus, putting the university and CDC on lockdown with an active shooter warning. The breaking details on the Trump-Putin summit, with President Trump posting it will be in Alaska next Friday. Andrea Mitchell with what we know. The race to get out alive as the canyon fire triples in size. Firefighters racing to get an edge on the raging wildfire. Thousands leaving their homes behind as fast as they can. We're in the fire zone. The first images inside the home from Brian Koberger's brutal slaying of those 4 college students. Plus the mission to save the glaciers. We sent our Molly Hunter to see the most rapidly melting glaciers on our planet.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas, reporting tonight from Miami.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Jim Axelrod. John Dickerson and Maurice Dubois are off. We begin tonight with a summit meeting between President Trump and Russian President Putin. It'll be held next Friday in Alaska. Mr. Trump made the announcement late today, the deadline he had given Putin to end the Ukraine war or face new sanctions. Nancy Cordes is at the White House. Nancy?
Jim, White House officials had been discussing foreign destinations like Rome or Abu Dhabi before Alaska suddenly emerged as the site for this summit. This will be Putin's first trip to the U.S. in 10 years, and he doesn't travel very often because he's facing an arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court for war crimes.
I think the location will be a very popular one for a lot of reasons.
President Trump's one-on-one meeting with Vladimir Putin will be their first since 2019. Contrary to initial plans, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will not be included, even though his territory is the focus of the talks.
It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both.
Putin has been pushing to keep all the Ukrainian territory he gained from his 3.5-year invasion, and then some.
What Putin is proposing is a very bad deal.
Bill Taylor served as U.S. ambassador to Ukraine under Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama. Why is Vladimir Putin suddenly so eager to sit down and talk?
Putin wants this meeting for two reasons. One is to stall any discussions of an end to the war. He wants to continue the war. But the second thing he wants is to come in from the cold. I mean, he's an indicted war criminal. Most of the world will not talk to him. And President Trump has said he's willing to talk to him.
Trump has long argued that he alone can get Putin to change course. So far, Putin has proved him wrong, leaving Trump increasingly frustrated.
So far, I've been very disappointed with President Putin. Every time I think it's going to end, he kills people. It's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
Trump eventually issued an ultimatum: accept a ceasefire by today or face more sanctions. Putin ignored that deadline. Today has once again brought killings and Russian shelling, Zelensky said. President Trump said today that he is going to start off meeting with Putin, and then future talks would involve Zelensky as well. But the planning for this summit in Alaska is still very...
Good evening, I'm Jeff Bennett. Ahmed Abbas is away. On the News Hour tonight, Israel moves closer to take over Gaza City in the latest escalation of the war with Hamas. President Trump says he will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin soon as a deadline for Russia to agree to a ceasefire with Ukraine passes. And recent natural disasters highlight FEMA's changing role under the Trump administration.
FEMA help is getting to places much slower than it was under the previous administration and even under the first President Trump administration.
Britain hits boiling point.
Migrant hotel protests erupt outside hotels that are used to house asylum seekers as clashes threaten to break out between rival demonstrators.
Islam braced themselves for further disorder throughout the weekend following multiple arrests yesterday evening, and our reporters were on the scene.
The police have... Excuse me, what do you mean? What do you mean our side, sir? I've just...
President Trump is going to meet with Vladimir Putin in Alaska next Friday, as the US president claims a ceasefire deal between Ukraine and Russia would involve swapping territories.
US Vice President J.D. Vance confirms Washington has no plans to recognize a Palestinian state. This Britain condemns Israel, highlighting a growing diplomatic divide in Western foreign policy.
We have no plans to recognize a Palestinian state. I don't know what it would mean to really recognize a Palestinian state, given the lack of a functional government there.
Feeling the heat, the country braces for a spell of warm summer weather. Gosh, it's August, as temperatures are expected to reach in excess of 30 degrees.
A 15-year-old boy is found guilty of murdering fellow pupil Harvey Wilgoose at a school in Sheffield, sparking calls for security checks in classrooms. We'll debate that later in the programme.
And a free speech row. A shopkeeper is left in shock after police ordered him to take down a sign which called shoplifters scumbags because they deemed it would be offensive to some. We'll be hearing from the local businessman himself.
Excuse me, do you think it's alright not to pay? Seriously, why do you go back to the barrier and pay? Do you want to go back and pay like everybody else? Do you think it's alright not to pay? Why do you go back and pay?
News of fair dodgers on the London Underground has surged by nearly 60%. That's just a month after Robert Jenrick confronted lawless free riders on video. We'll talk to him later. Good morning. The championship is underway and Tom Brady's Birmingham City were denied victory by a controversial penalty on opening night. The rest of the league starts today. And Manchester United open their doors to their upgraded £50 million training complex, and it has its own barbers. More this hour.
Hello there, good morning. Some blustery showers across northern areas, but much of England and Wales seeing a warm and sunny start to the weekend. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
Just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Very good morning to you. 6 o'clock. The date and place is set for a meeting between President Trump and his Russian counterpart, but without involving Ukraine's leader, can a deal really be done to end the war?
And in sport, Crystal Palace will find out in the coming days whether they'll be playing in the Europa League or the Conference League in the new season after they submitted their case to the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
Plenty of sport and news to come, plus the weather on Saturday, the 9th of August. President Trump confirms he'll meet with Vladimir Putin on US soil on Friday and signals how he plans to end the war in Ukraine.
There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both.
Anger from victims' families that a new review into the handling of prosecutions against post office staff will stop short of looking into individual cases. Sky News witnesses foreign aid drops into Gaza, but our analysis shows they're making little difference to the hunger crisis. And the NASA astronaut who brought a failed moon mission back to Earth has died at the age of 97.
And in the sport, we'll have the very latest on Alexander Isak's future as his manager Eddie Howe orders him to trade away from the rest of the Newcastle squad amid strong interest from Liverpool.
Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on The Breakfast Show. President Trump has announced he will meet the Russian leader Vladimir Putin in Alaska.
US President Donald Trump to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska as his deadline for a Ukraine ceasefire deal expires.
There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both.
Australia among several countries to strongly reject Israel's decision to fully occupy Gaza City. A traditional welcome for the Prime Minister as he arrives in New Zealand to meet with his Kiwi counterpart. And the astronaut who commanded the failed Apollo 13 mission, Jim Lovell, died at the age of 97. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ruby Cornish. US President Donald Trump says a land swap could form part of a ceasefire deal between Russia and Ukraine. This morning, Mr. Trump confirmed he'll meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska next Friday. The president's deadline for Russia to agree to a ceasefire is set to expire today, but it's unclear whether he'll carry out his threat of more sanctions against Moscow and its trading partners.
We're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy. It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both.
The meeting between the US and Russia will be the first since 2021.
Which allows us to save a lot of money. An investigation into the arid lands of Spain in reporters on France 24.
Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. Our headlines this Saturday. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin will meet in Alaska on August 15th to discuss Ukraine. The U.S. president said that a ceasefire deal could involve some swapping of territories. Trump congratulates himself as the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan signed a peace agreement at the White House. If it holds, the deal would end decades of conflict between the two neighbors. It also gives the U.S. exclusive development rights to a strategic transit corridor. And Israel continues to draw condemnation both at home and abroad over its plans to take control of Gaza City. The foreign ministers of the UK, Germany, Italy, Australia, and New Zealand signing a joint statement saying it risks violating international humanitarian law.
DW.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. Donald Trump says he'll meet Vladimir Putin next Friday in Alaska to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. Trump says an eventual deal could involve Russia and Ukraine swapping territory. The Kremlin has confirmed the meeting and says it'll invite Trump to visit Russia afterwards. Next week's summit will be the first between the two leaders since Trump's return to office in January. Azerbaijan and Armenia have signed a US-brokered peace deal at the White House. To take over Gaza City. Israel Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has condemned the decision. This is DW News from Berlin. You'll find
Now, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's Security Cabinet has approved plans to take over Gaza City, which would significantly expand Israeli military operations in the Palestinian enclave. Under the plan, Israel will force all Palestinian civilians from Gaza City into displacement camps further south. This comes after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told Fox News he intends to take over all of Gaza. Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid blasted the plan, calling it a disaster. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer called the decision wrong, adding, quote, "It will only lead to more bloodshed." Germany said it would suspend arms exports to Israel until further notice. Meanwhile, UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk said Israel's complete takeover of Gaza should be, quote, "immediately halted." Palestinians in Gaza reacted to Netanyahu's takeover plans.
Netanyahu's decision to occupy Gaza, it's like there's nothing left to occupy in the first place. We're already dying. 100,000 deaths every day. Around 100 to 150 people die daily from starvation, on top of everything else we're going through. Practically all of Gaza has been squeezed into the western part of Gaza City, and that's all that's left. Just that, west of Gaza City. At this point, for the people, there's no difference anymore, whether he occupies it or not.
Meanwhile, the Israeli TV station Channel 13 is reporting Netanyahu deliberately imposed starvation on Gaza, restricting aid to the besieged enclave as part of a...
Headline news this hour. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin are set to meet in the U.S. state of Alaska next Friday to discuss the war in Ukraine, with the American leader indicating that the talks could involve a territorial exchange between Moscow and Kyiv.
We're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both.
Japan marks 80 years since the dropping of the atomic bomb on Nagasaki, these twin cathedral bells ringing for the first time as the bombing in a message of peace to the world. It was part of a commemoration service that began with a solemn ceremony in Nagasaki Peace Park. About 3,000 people, including representatives from 95 countries and regions, attended the ceremony. At least 9 people, including 1 child, have suffered injuries after a Bangkok-bound train derailed early this morning. Thai authorities say railway services are running as usual, though delays are expected. The incident happened at around 5 a.m. local time. The train was on its way to the Thai capital's main railway terminal from the Malaysian town of Padang Besar when it went off the rails in Kueh district. And Singapore marks its 60th year of independence. Ahead of National Day, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong says the country must remain exceptional in a period of economic upheaval. It's the latest from CNN.
Africa News. The news.
President Umaro Sissoco Embalo Thursday sacked his country's prime minister in a move seen as meant to position himself for a likely second term in elections due in November. According to a presidential decree, Gowi Duarte de Barros, who served as prime minister since December 2023, was replaced by Braima Kamara, a former coordinator of the Madem G15 opposition party. There has been much controversy over Embalo's term ahead of the November general elections. The small West African nation has endured multiple coups since gaining independence from Portugal more than 50 years ago. Guinea-Bissau's constitution sets the presidential term at 5 years, with maximum 2 terms. The opposition says Embalo's term should have ended on February 27th, but the nation's Supreme Court has ruled that it should run until September 4th. However, Embalo earlier this year set the election date for November 30th and said his first term will run until then, further heightening tensions. A mission sent by ECOWAS to help resolve the crisis quickly left the country after threats of expulsion.
A controversial symbol of colonialism has finally fallen in Trinidad and Tobago. After standing for more than a century, the statue of Christopher Columbus was removed from Port of Spain on Wednesday, marking a major step in the nation's reckoning with its colonial past. The monument was taken down with its head mysteriously covered by a decorative bag.
This monument made us the laughing stock of the world, right? People have a way of describing the natives as the children of the human family, and the fact that we couldn't, for some time, we didn't seem to have the capacity to really understand our violent colonial past and the courage to confront it. It really made us look ridiculous, particularly from the point of view that we were seeking reparations from colonial powers while actively venerating the perpetrators of the crimes for which we were seeking those compensation.
Trinidad and Tobago is replacing colonial symbols, remaking its coat of arms and swapping Columbus ships for the steel pan. This moves mirror a global shift as nations rethink colonial legacies nearly 525 years after Columbus first arrived on these shores. Spanish soccer club Villarreal has signed Ghanaian midfielder Thomas Berry on a free transfer just 2 days after he was granted bail in England on rape and sexual assault charges. The 32-year-old, whose Arsenal contract expired in June, faces 5 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault involving 3 women between 2021 and 2022. Villarreal's statement acknowledged the charges but emphasized Berry's denial of all allegations. The club cited the presumption of innocence and said it awaits the judicial outcome while condemning violence and discrimination in all forms. Berry, who previously played for Arsenal and Atletico Madrid, is set to join Villarreal's training. His legal team maintains his innocence. He is due back in court at London's Old Bailey on September 2nd. For now, Berry's football career continues amidst unresolved legal proceedings.